Steve is in New York, I know that.
All set. Thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 13th, 2013 meeting of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. We opened the meeting at 6:10 p.m. Mr. Barrow's in attendance and went into executive session to discuss contract and litigation matters whereby public discussion of those matters would have been detrimental to the interests of the town. May I have the roll call again, please?
Present, Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Titlebaum, Selectman Slavin, Town Administrator, Mr. Sullivan.
Next item, please.
I have no bills for today. First thing we have is appointment interview for Affordable Housing Trust.
Actually, we have announcements.
Oh, I keep doing that every time. One of these
Tried to
days,
skip citizens' participation again, but I wouldn't let them.
I know. One of these days I'll get there. Mr. Whiteside? I do. Do you have something?
I do, but why don't you go ahead?
Okay, we'll go down the list. Wareham Historical Society Concert and Ice Cream Social, Sunday, August 18th. Again, Sunday, not the usual Monday, 6 p.m., 495 Main Street, which is the Methodist Meeting Hall. The Wareham Historical Society proudly presents Grace Morrison in concert. Grace will entertain us with lively folk music for a fun-filled summer evening. Grace is a well-known local artist who writes her own music, plays guitar, and performs at many well-known venues, such as the New Bedford Folk Festival, Falmouth Arts Festival, and recently at the Sandy Woods Center for the Arts. She has been a long-standing dedicated volunteer docent for the Wareham Historical Society at a Faring Tavern Museum, which is open for tours on Saturdays, Sundays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. throughout the summer. After the concert, join us for an old-fashioned ice cream social. For Wareham Historical members, it is free. For non-members, $5, children, $2. For those that have questions about the Wareham and the Sewer Commissioners, I received a letter from Mary in Senator Pacheco's office that there was a couple little questions they had which were answered, and the warrant article has gone on to what they call a first reading. It's the first step in the process to get it approved. We have a thing called the Fugel Fund, which is for Paul Fugel, is a 27-year veteran of the Wareham Police Department who's been battling cancer, and they are going to have a social event on September 27th to help offset his medical expenses and day-to-day expenses. It will be at the Boxhall Mill over at AD Makepeace on Tohonet and Farm to Market Road. I do not have a time here, I'm sorry. They didn't supply that. The Recycling Committee is looking for members for that particular committee. WCTV is looking for people to fill out the survey that's online at the cable station. Yeah, I think it's WCTV. Why don't you come out and say it exactly for us? You don't have a union contract, we're okay.
WarehamTV.org.
Okay, again, it's important that survey gets done. It helps them what they're trying to do. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, I just have a few here. First off, this Friday there will be a night to honor assistant football coach Dobie Franklin. He's been coaching football in Wareham for 33 years, and he's also a middle school teacher. He's retiring. The event to honor Coach Franklin is at 7 p.m. at the Redmond Hall. And tickets are $20 and can be purchased from Harry Irving at Gone Hollywood Hair Salon on Main Street, and also by calling Phil LaFavor at 508-763-3143. And congratulations to Coach Franklin. I'm actually old enough to remember him running up and down the football field blocking for the Wareham Vikings back in the 70s. So quite an accomplishment. Something else, Selectman Slavin was recently honored by being chosen one of only 4 selectmen members among 31 towns in the Southeastern Regional Planning District to serve on the Southeastern Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization. This is actually chaired by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Transportation Secretary Richard Davey. We've got the mayors of Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton, but again, 31 communities, only 4 selectmen were chosen, and I believe this is reflective of Selectman Slavin's longstanding work with and cooperation with the Serpent organization. So congratulations, Selectman Slavin. And that's all I have.
Mr. Chair. I just found the flyer for the evening for Paul Flugel. It's from 6 to 11 p.m.
Next item, please.
All right, Jerry, we have citizens' participation this time.
Is there anybody who'd like to speak before the board tonight? No? Quiet night. Moving on. Next item, please.
Takes all the fun of me skipping it. All right, consent agenda. We have no bills for tonight. We have an appointment for Affordable Housing Trust. I believe Donna Bronk. I don't see Mrs. Bronk in the audience.
Yes, why don't we hold off on that and give her an opportunity to get here to see if she does come. We'll come back to that if she drives.
We'll reschedule that. Okay. First up, we have the minutes of July 16th for approval. Take a motion on that.
Move as written.
I'll second by necessity.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300. Approved.
I'll take a motion on the minutes for July 23rd.
Move them as written.
We need to move and hold on those. It's executive session matters.
Yep.
So if you would draw your motion to approve and replace it with a motion to approve and hold.
There's a regular July 23rd.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I jump the gun here?
Yes.
You jumped the gun.
You
Okay.
jumped the gun.
Shame on me.
I'll try it again. The regular meeting for July 23rd to 2013, move as written.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 300. Approved.
I'll make a motion for the executive session minutes of July 23rd and to hold those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300. Next item, please.
Okay. The hearing we have is for 7:15, so it's not that time yet.
We jump down to the change of hours then.
Okay. Captain Al's.
Why don't we get rid of the EMS person?
Yeah,
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Okay, why don't you let us know what you're looking to change here?
We're looking to change and close day after Columbus Day. We don't feel there's enough business after that date. We've tried year-round. We've tried just about everything to continue beyond that date, but we feel it's better for us to, if you would allow it, to let us close day after Columbus Day, and then we'd reopen back in April.
Okay, so will this change be reflected most likely in your license for next year when you re-up
No,
here?
we have one of those licenses that go with a property with a special,
Oh, okay.
remember,
All right.
yes.
all that stuff.
Runs with the land, not with the the
There
ownership.
you go.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board about this?
I've got everything in place here that we need. I'll make a motion to go ahead and change of hours for Captain Al's Restaurant, LLC, DBA Captain Al's, 3236 Cranberry Highway, manager Alfred Harrington. And the change will be Monday through Sunday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Mid-close day after, midnight close day after Columbus Day till 3:30-13. And we have a condition: alcohol served on premises, deck only, no beach or boating area, and noise on the deck area to be appropriately monitored by management.
Second.
Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you very
We're all
much.
set. Thank you. Let's probably slide one more item in before the hearing.
The EMS rates, do we have any discussion on that, or that's just going to go through? We'll get Dave out of here if that's the case.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Mr. Evans, we'll take you out a turn here and get you on your way.
Thank you.
I believe when Mr. Evans was here last time, we held off on the vote only because we had questions about the non-emergency and emergency. And I believe the information has been supplied if anyone still has questions.
Yes, any questions from the board? Anything you'd like to add to the prior discussion?
No, unless you have any further questions.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the new rates as supplied by our EMS director.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin.
Second,
Vice
noting that the rates are on a memo dated July 10th,
10th, thank you.
2013.
Well, this will be part of the minutes.
Okay.
We'll incorporate by reference into the minutes. Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Just need-
300.
I just need an effective date to tell the building company.
Tomorrow.
Effective tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's effective immediately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Now you have a hearing.
If you,
Wait 30 seconds and we'll do the hearing.
all right, well, you can do them along. All right.
Okay, I'll take a motion to open the public hearing on the application from Barnacle Bob's.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 300. The hearing is opened. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert Berry, representing the petitioner. This is Tim Ciafoni with me. He's the principal of the petitioner.
Now, Tim's a lawyer. What's he need you for?
Don't tell him that, for God's sakes.
I just want to read into the record, Barnacle Bob's, Inc., DBA Barnacle Bob's, and/or BB's 2424 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass. Has applied for a public amusement on weekday license for jukebox, live entertainment, and automatic amusement device under provisions of Chapter 140 of the Mass General Laws. And the second piece is public entertainment on Sunday license for jukebox, live entertainment, and automated amusement device under the provisions of Chapter 136 of the Mass General Laws.
Okay. I'll open it up to questions from the board. First, why don't you tell us what you're proposing to do? Just by way of introduction and just a brief summary here for the record?
Certainly. Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight. Generally, there's a player piano that's in the establishment. It's a modern player piano. Yamaha works on computer-generated, so each pad on the piano has a mechanism that's activated by the computer. So it's a modern-type player piano, and plan to utilize that during the late lunch and early dinner hours. So that's going to be a main focus. There's also a internet jukebox that is quite different than what I had been used to in the old days with 45s and the CDs. And now it actually, you can download up to 200,000 songs. It's amazing, and you could also limit the types of music that you play or that you can download, actually. That's the second thing. Third is to try to bring some live entertainment in different formats. One of them, which we're trying to develop, is open mic night with some of the local amateur musicians that may want to practice their skill, so to speak, in a live type setting, and in particular acoustic guitar. We want to stress that, and perhaps like a blues night for the amateurs, but that would be more of the off, maybe like a Tuesday or Wednesday once a week. And then we're thinking every couple weeks at this time to bring in some karaoke, maybe Friday or Saturday night after the dinner crowd leaves, and for a few hours. So in a nutshell, that's the general direction that we're going.
Okay. Thank you for that comprehensive explanation. Questions from the board? Selectman Whiteside?
So I take it your target audience is not your age or mine?
Well, I would think with the player piano in particular, we are trying to cater to the evening, the late lunch and the early evening crowd, which does seem to be in our, the 40s, 50s type age group is what our target is generally. Then with the internet jukebox, that runs the gamut. With those 200,000 songs that you could choose from, it runs the gamut as far as the ability to pick certain songs, and also, as I indicated earlier, to limit certain songs. So if there was a desire to limit like hip-hop type music, which there is, then that would be restricted, and is restricted right now from folks being able to download that. So I would suggest that it's more 30s, 40s, 50s type.
Thank you.
Selectman Slavin?
I don't really have any questions. I've gone through. We have all the notifications of all the abutters. We have the receipts here. Everything is in place.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this application? Seeing none. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
Just that what we've requested is basically the same things Palmador had for a number of years. I pretty much copied the old licenses that I found in the establishment after Tim purchased it.
These uses don't seem especially radical.
No, we tried not to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll
make
take a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin to close the hearing, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Is there anything further to discuss before we have a vote on the application itself?
I'll make the following two motions, one, and then we'll vote on each one separate. First motion, again, is Barnacle Bob's, Inc., DBA Barnacle Bob's, and/or BB's, 2424 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass., for a public amusement on weekday license for jukebox, live entertainment, automated amusement devices under provisions of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Law.
Second.
Do we need to include the televisions that are on the application?
You have automatic amusement devices, so what do you consider that?
Okay. They have separate line items.
We'll use an expansive definition for that, Bob.
Fair enough. I can live with that, as long as we understand that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 300. Next motion, please.
Next motion again, Barnacle Bob's Inc., DBA Barnacle Bob's and/or BB's 2424 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass., for a public entertainment on Sunday license for jukebox, live entertainment, automatic amusement device under provisions of Chapter 136 of Mass General Law.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 300.
I do not have the paperwork here for us to sign, so
No.
we're going to have to go up to the
Sorry.
office. Well,
That's not a problem. Thank you very much.
Should
Thank
we-
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Good luck.
Thank you.
give me just a minute, I can make a note on this. Yep. License. We'll go back to Mrs. Bronco, if she'd like to come up. This is the Affordable Housing Trust.
Good evening, and nice to see you once again today.
Sorry I was late.
It's
We
okay,
waited
we
for
found a
you.
way to pass the time.
Yeah.
Well, just briefly, you've applied for membership on the Affordable Housing Trust. If you give me half a second here to get organized. I do know that the Housing Trust, of which I'm the selectman member, met this morning, proceeded to interview you about your interest, and I'll read the following letter from the chairman of the Housing Trust, Steve Suey. At our Affordable Housing Trust meeting held on August 13th, 2013, the trust voted unanimously to recommend Donna Bronk to the trust. Donna has extensive experience in real estate development, sales, and affordable housing, and will bring all that experience to the trust. Thank you for your consideration. Stephen Suey, Chair, Wareham Affordable Housing Trust. So you've got the, just so the board knows, Mrs. Bronk has received the unanimous endorsement of the existing Housing Trust members for this position. So with that in mind,
I would move that she be appointed,
that was quick.
Unless she has something to say.
unless you want to say.
Would you like to say anything before we,
No, this is to do the housing authority. I'm very committed to affordable housing, and I have been for over 30 years. My entire background has been affordable housing, and I would like to see it improve and be a part of it in my own town. I mean, I've been throughout the state in numerous positions, and I love affordable housing. I've done condominiums, and I just soon not deal with them. But I am, like I said, and I'm very committed to the seniors. And if there's anything you have to ask me about it, I mean, I'm here to. What you think I can do? What I have done, I can certainly tell you what I have done. And
I think the board's pretty familiar with you.
oh, okay.
No.
Now, may I make my motion?
Yeah,
So
just a clarification. We have two different applications you have in. You have one for possibility of filling position of the housing authority,
Right.
which is normally through the state, but that is one piece. This piece here is the Affordable Housing Trust itself, which you also apply for. That's the
Yes.
town committee
Okay.
that actually has monies which they use for affordable housing.
Right.
That's what this one is today.
Gotcha.
Just for the record.
Just okay.
Well, we have a motion made, but not quite a second yet.
Second.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? You're appointed.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for
Donna.
volunteering. We appreciate it.
Just so people know, Mrs. Bronk spent the last 6 years on the Finance Committee, was chair for 2 of those years. We appreciate her continuing to step up.
Okay, next item, please.
We have The one-day license for William Fuller, manager. How are you, sir?
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, thanks. And you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so this is an application on a one-day. What's the event for? If you just want to get it out there for people.
Yes, this is a day of bluegrass being celebrated at Box Mill Hall. And I was contacted by Kim Hoodlett from Box Mill Hall and AD Makepeace Company to ask if we would provide beer and wine service for their Day of Bluegrass on August 24th. My company's made application before this board before for one-day licenses. I do apologize for my dress as I ran off the football field in Middleborough to make it. Youth football has started, so I do apologize for not being dressed.
Well, that's okay. We don't hold people to ceremony here too often.
I have all the proper documentation, including the tips training list as well.
You have the tips training. Okay, that was my question. Any questions from the board? Well, a motion.
Make a motion for the Bartending Service New England LLC, William Fuller, 13 West End Ave, Middleborough, Mass. Effective date is August 24th, 2013. Hours of sale 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Box Mill Hall, Tohono Village, Wareham, Mass. for a one-day beer and wine license.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin and seconded by Selectman Whiteside. Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you very
3-0-0. You're all set. This will be ready for you in the Selectman's office.
That's great,
Thank you very much.
Next will be the Merloni event.
Good evening. Good, thanks. And you?
Fine, thanks.
When this particular piece came up, I had noticed going through the paperwork that the application had come in on the 19th of April, and I've been trying to get a hold of the organization, which I just did a few minutes ago before the meeting started, because everybody understands we have a onset pier where they want to use. Of course, we have kiosks, and we're generating revenue right now. So they've been basically very generous because they actually qualified by the application prior to our kiosk, but they're willing to basically use a certain portion of the parking area, which won't affect the revenue for parking, and there'll be parking vehicles over at Heinz Field. So therefore, they're basically accommodating us, which I want to thank you for ahead of time.
You're welcome. All we essentially want to do is set up a table and a small tent if it's raining on the grassy area on the pier. So we'll be nowhere near any parking spaces.
Yes, we appreciate that very much.
No, thank you for your flexibility.
I understand entirely.
Why don't you tell us and the public something about the event itself while
We're
you're
going
here?
into our 12th annual Dick Maloney Youth Foundation 55 charity bike ride. It is a 55-mile ride for the most part, so the vast majority of the cyclists are experienced riders. I'm sorry to report this is probably going to be our last year for this ride, primarily because our family fun ride with children and families has taken off a little bit more in the spring. So we're going to focus our efforts on that ride instead of this one, primarily because you get kids and families involved, and that's more of what we're about. So this year, well, for the last 2 years, we started our ride in Buzzards Bay at the canal, but we wanted to come back to Onset for our last year, where we started the ride and had it for 9 years. And so this is a part of ceremony, is to have it leave where it left for so many years and sort of end where we began.
Okay, and why don't you just tell us when and
It is this Saturday.
Yep, the hours and
it kicks off at between 7:30 and 8 a.m. And like I said, the ride's 55 miles, so depending upon your strength of rider, we'll see what people typically get in by 11, 12 o'clock, and so it's not a whole day event; it's more of a half day event.
okay. Any questions from the board, or?
It would be a 3-year event if you made me do it.
But the family fun ride is only 14 miles along the canal, so in the
There you
spring, maybe you'll hear from us on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from Mr. Maloney, or?
Nope, I'll make the motion. Give me a
Please.
second. Make a motion for a one-day permit for the Dick Maloney Youth Foundation, care of Richard H. Maloney Jr., 7 Peter Cooper Drive, Wareham, for the use of town roads to hold a bicycle ride on Saturday, August 17th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin and seconded by Selectman Whiteside. Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 300. You're all set
Thank you very much.
for the final year, it sounds like,
For this one.
for this.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the winter for the spring, I guess.
You bet. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you again for the
Thank you.
accommodation. Let's see.
This is a Peter.
That's yours. If I could have the board's indulgence, we have the chairman from the planning board. I would ask him to come up out of order, just so people understand. The planning board met till about 11:15 last night, and I don't think it's fair to have him sit around till we get to him.
Fair enough. Good evening, Mr. Barrett.
We're going to put two items together. We have basically the TDR and also the signed bylaw.
Okay, well, as you know, and the rest, we had a public meeting last evening at the planning board trying to get some public input on the transfer of development rights bylaw. For those of you who don't know, this goes back to, I think, 2005. We started working on this, and there's been several renditions. I think we're real close. The Regional Planning Agency, SERPED, has got involved in helping us put the finishing touches on it. I think what needs to be done now is I think there's 3 drafts of this bylaw, just combine the 3 and put the most current one out there, and we can go forward with it.
Questions from the board? No, I just want to give this a little bit of context. We met back, I believe it was the first week of November, jointly, your body, the planning board, and also the Board of Selectmen. And out of that meeting, there were 3 priorities that were identified to try to get done. One was the medical marijuana issue. That was taken care of by the town meeting vote this past spring for a year-long moratorium. The second one was the sign bylaw, and the third one was this TDR bylaw. Now, I know with respect to the TDR, as you just mentioned, SERPED was, their help was sought. So, with that in mind, I'll hold my other thoughts. Selectman Whiteside?
No, don't think I have any questions on this at the moment.
Selectman Slavin?
As the board's representative to the planning board, I've been obviously involved with this for a long time, even before when I was on the planning board as well. We had planned to have this ready for the fall town meeting. It was basically, we kind of committed to doing it, so I'm very disappointed that it's a question of whether we'll make it in time, and I feel like I've kind of let things down. The issue is basically that SERPED has contract times available to the town. It's X number of hours that they give us. I believe they give us 40 hours total of service work, half to the planning board, half to the Board of Selectmen. Basically, the 20 hours that was given to the planning board for this particular project, which is the TDR project, did not get into the queue properly time-wise. And what happened was we missed the cycle, so we basically had to wait till almost July of this particular year to get back in and get the work done. There is still, I believe they've got, did she say 90 hours of work to go?
That's what was relayed to me.
Yeah, of what they're going to do for us, but that would be December 11th. So I guess the thing to do is we're going to see what Sandy Conti, who is the SERPED rep that handles it, see how far she can go to help us with this, because there were certain interesting items brought up about a regional approach as well to a TDR, and there were a few other pieces that we hadn't even contemplated in our TDR draft. So my concern is that we don't go to town meeting with a document that really isn't fully vetted, and if there are things that are important to get in there, I'm not sure whether we want to go ahead and put something in and have to come back 6 months or a year later and modify it again. But if the planning board is willing to go ahead and see if they get it done, I'd be more than happy to continue working on it as well.
Yeah, I don't see, given the direction we gave Ms. Conity last night, I don't see that amount of time involved. I think most of what we were looking for were comparisons to what other towns did with their bylaw, and you know, she's the expert. She would know better than I how long it takes her to do something, but I think we're a lot closer than that, honestly.
Well, if you can reach out and get some time frames so we know where we're at, because you still have to, I think, post for the public
Mhm.
hearings.
That's one of the things that we need desperately is some public input. You know, you can work this until you're blurry-eyed, and then you put it out on town meeting floor, and things come at you from directions you never expected. And it's a lot more helpful if you can get that up front, so you can make the changes that you need to make, because things look better at a fresh set of eyes. You know, they see things you don't see after you've looked at it for so long.
So, excuse me, did you have a hearing on this last night?
We had a public meeting. It wasn't a public hearing. We advertised a meeting to try to get some public input. It wasn't well attended.
So your next step would be, aside from contacting the individual named, would be to re-advertise for a public hearing?
I think at this point, if we can come up with a finished product, a bylaw, then we would schedule a public hearing and pick it apart. That seems to be where we gather the most information. In the past, that's usually where you hear it all.
So you're looking to come up with some sort of a product, have a hearing on it, make any final amendments that your board feels are appropriate, and then submit that as by way of your motion for town meeting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the public hearing process to do with town meeting is after the warrant article's already created, you have a public hearing, then you can't change it because there isn't enough of a time frame.
Yeah, it's a
That's
little compressed.
so.
September 13th.
If it's minor changes, you can attempt to fix it on the floor, but that's not usually productive.
Yeah. Well, we have set a cutoff date for warrant article submission of September 13th. So we've got a full month to work on this. And again, I want to stress, Selectman Holmes isn't here tonight, but then Chairman Holmes and you both felt 9 months ago that this was important enough to schedule an out of regular session joint meeting to talk about this, to make this a priority. And while I appreciate that Selectman Slavin wants to take responsibility for there not being a finished product, that's not his job. He's a liaison to a board. He's not the one supposed to be doing the work. I am disappointed that not only this, but the other two items that were identified by both bodies as a priority for the town were not taken care of. And, but with that in mind, I'll just stop right there. And I think going forward, we have to look forward.
I'm not sure what the chronology was on getting Serpent involved on this TDR. I know at one point when the assistance was asked for, that they had to wait till the next fiscal year, but I'm not sure what that chronology was when they asked for the assistance.
Well, water under the bridge, I guess, at this point. I do know that the issue of Serpent's involvement was certainly discussed in November. I remember the meeting well enough to recall that. So at that point in time, I would have hoped that the outreach would have taken place. So, but anyway, let's deal with what we have, not with what we want to have.
The sign by law, I've gone through it again, and I will go over it with Alan again, since he's one of the authors, I believe.
Yeah, I did. I finished it up just before the election.
Yep. And the medical marijuana treatment center is all done except for choosing where you want to put it.
I believe the last meeting of the planning board, if I remember right, I don't think there was a vote at the time, but the discussion was to locate them in what we call industrial zoned areas only. And there already is at least 3 or 4 approved marijuana bylaws that the AG's office has signed off on, so the template's already there. We don't have to invent the wheel on those. The sign bylaw is probably 95% or better, ready to go. The ZBA has approved it probably 3 or 4 months ago. I did find, as I was going through some paperwork in the clerk's office, we actually had a 1992 sign bylaw that got put off for further study by town meeting, which had a tremendous amount of work done to it and had a lot of good information. So it still should be taken a look at just to see if we've missed anything at all, because that was quite a bit of work at that time by a group of people. So I believe we can probably get that one done. This board here also has to. We don't have all 5 members, but we also have not done our job yet of going through and signing off on that as well. So you're waiting for us as well on this one.
Yeah, on the sign bylaw, I think there's some redundancy there that we could probably eliminate and streamline it a little. I don't want to overcomplicate it and...
Is this up?
We put everything possible into it.
Look, I see that.
Every contingency possible, because it's easy to take it out, but it's pretty hard to add it back in later.
Let me just interrupt here for 1 second, sorry. Is this up on the town website?
I don't know that.
Can be.
The draft sign bylaw as it presently stands, because that would be helpful. This is something that's going to generate a lot of interest from people. And frankly, I think it would be helpful to have it up on the website so people can take a look at it and send us their critiques and comments ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, we've just talked about it's good to have different sets of eyes on things. You know, what better way to do it than put it up on the website and make it available to everyone? Is that something?
If it's not on there, we'll get it up. There's probably something I was going to wait for my town administrator's report, but we've received the resignation letter from the town planner and accepted it, and it's effective August 26th. So there's going to be some transition in that department. And what I'd like to offer is my department's help in the meantime to make sure that things are being moved forward, especially on these important items.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, Susan Green, so we can get things on the website, scheduling, anything you need for help. These are important matters that we don't want to lose. So please reach out and let me know.
Yeah,
and
I think we
appreciate
can
it.
accomplish that fairly easy without
So,
the transition, that is.
Yeah. Anything else on the board
No, just
for
whatever,
Chairman Barrett?
just whatever help we can provide, make sure it gets
Have
done,
you
that's
any
all.
preferences on where the marijuana distribution facility should be?
Industrial areas.
To
So,
me, we already have a pharmacy system in the state. Why don't they use it?
yeah, I know.
Well, that's not what the folks in their wisdom came up with, so falls upon us, I guess, to try to cite these things appropriately to the extent that that can happen. But while we do have Chairman Barrett here, why don't we give him a sense of, now obviously you stated industrial areas, what do you think, Selectman Whiteside?
Certainly industrial areas.
And we're talking industrial areas only, correct?
That's correct.
Do we have any industrial areas within 1,000 feet of a school?
No.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Where Springborn is that industrial on that side?
Yes.
By the Deacon School?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I believe that's institutional. I'd have to check, but
I don't think it is either.
Perhaps that might be something to consider, is to put that exclusion in for the industrial areas. I mean, obviously, you can't use it.
there is no
To-
longer daycare in the industrial park, right?
Isn't there still?
No.
There's a rehab and...
There's the Donovan School, which is with minors in it,
Could be a problem.
in the previous location of Wareham Childcare
Yeah.
on Recovery Road.
Oh, okay.
So, just on the entrance. So
That could be an issue.
those are juveniles.
We're back to Westfield.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Are we all set?
Yes.
Well,
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for your update. We appreciate it, and thank you for your hard work last night. So,
And thanks you for the offer of assistance.
my pleasure.
We'll be beating down your door if we need you.
Take care. Thank
Thanks,
you again.
George. Have a good night.
Why don't we vote to accept the gift as a ministerial matter? Why don't we jump to the Housing Authority presentation?
I can just very quickly, we have funding source for contract 2. There is no discussion there. We've already talked about, looking at the meals tax possibility there. But we'll take care of that as we go. There is no extra sewer business. Mr. Campina's not here, and we have nothing on the agenda. So go ahead, and we'll move over to the Wareham Housing Authority and get them.
Good evening, Mr. Paulides. How are you? Congratulations on your ascension to the chairmanship of the Wareham Housing Authority. You've got your work cut out for you, I understand.
We do.
My condolences.
Thank you for
Mine too.
Thank you for having me. I'm here representing Rudy Santos and Donna Barrows, the new nucleus of the new Wareham Housing Authority. And I'm glad to see Ms. Bronk here also, and I'll mention her in a moment. But my purpose for coming was to kind of clarify some attention in the media relative to housing authorities in general and Wareham in particular. Wareham Housing Authority is one of about 245 housing authorities in the Commonwealth. They operate about 85,000 units of housing in the Commonwealth. Housing authorities are separate quasi-public instrumentalities. They're not part of the community. It's like the Mass Port Authority. It's in Boston, but it's not part of Boston, or a Regional Transit Authority, or the School Building Assistance Authority. They're separate entities. They're created under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 121B, to provide safe, decent, affordable housing for eligible tenants. They're governed, managed, and controlled by a 5-member board. In towns, that's a 5-member board with 5 locally elected individuals and 1 state appointee. In the cities and in some of the larger cities and larger towns, the 5 elected members are appointed by the mayor or the town administrator or the town manager, and there's still a 1 state appointee. Wareham Housing Authority was established, I think, in the late 50s by town meeting, where they adopted Chapter 121B. Subsequent to that, in the early 60s, they built the Agawam village of 64 units, and following that they built 103 units of apartments up on Redwood. The Housing Authority operates those 104 units on state subsidy of about $70,000 and the rest rental income. They receive no town appropriation. They also have about 50 units of MRVP, that's the State Mass Rental Voucher Program, where eligible individuals find a unit of housing, and the Housing Authority administers the program. Housing Authority gets a fee for administering the program. The tenants pay the landlord, and the state subsidizes the balance of the rent. Up until June 30th, we were operating 20 units of Section 8 housing. That's gone, and we'll find out more about why that's gone as we proceed. We also got an administration fee for operating those Section 8 housing. So that comprises the portfolio of housing units in Wareham. Again, we have found a condition of significant neglect and deterioration in the board. With the state's assistance and cooperation, pledged to remedy, repair, renovate these units and return the residents of these units to dignity. We have, as I said, we have two vacancies. One is a state appointee, and I'm pleased that Donna Bronk is here, and she's an applicant as the state appointee, and I would be asking the board if they would vote to send the governor a letter and DHCD a letter endorsing her application so we can continue to fill the board. The one locally elected board member, we will be coming before you with hopefully with an applicant, and then we'll round out our board. We are in the process of having a forensic audit done. We have hired a interim manager, and we have been working with our fee accountant together to identify all the areas that need correction and improvement, and then when we get those reports, we'll provide them to you folks and the public. The state sent us a letter Monday which just highlighted bullet points for the 7 or 8 items that they identified when they came in middle of June, between the 2 meetings of the June meeting and the July meeting. But when we get that detailed report, we'll also provide that. With that, I conclude my presentation. If any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions from the board? Selectman Whiteside?
No, thank you.
Selectman Slavin?
I was by, I think yesterday, happened to drive through, stop in, see Mr. Paulitis as well, and we talked a little bit just about the plans going forward. And there was a few buildings when you first go in there, the office itself, that have had the fronts of the buildings refaced and redone, and it's a much better setup than what they've had before as far as the outside. The inside is really critical because they're pretty well run down, and they really haven't had much maintenance at all. So I believe Mr. Paulitis will be able to take care of the issues that we're looking at, which has been basically ignored for a long, long time. I thank you for stepping up on that.
Thank you, yeah. In that regard, I'd just briefly say that there's significant issues at the Redwood project with plumbing, heating. They had a contract that was let out for several $100,000 for there and the siding of the building in Agawam. As of Friday and all this weekend, the tenants at Redwood are still without hot water. After that project was supposed to be finished last August, and the maintenance people, without support from the management, have been fighting at a lower level. We've now elevated it to a higher level, and we'll get that done. We're going to send them a letter asking we want it resolved by the end of August, or else we'll proceed with other remedies. And the same with the buildings in Agawam. The contracts are substandard. They put the siding up. Then after they put the sides up, they took and injected insulation in. The roofs are just as old as the sides, and they didn't do the roof. So now when they do the roofs, they're going to have to take the sides down. So they save a few bucks in the first contract, but they're going to waste a lot more money remedying the Agawam property. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I can remember as a kid, the kid who took over my paper route also subsequently acquired the Agawam Village paper route for the Standard Times, actually. And at that time, I want to say probably half the citizens living there got the paper, so it was a pretty good pickup for my buddy. And I used to ride around with him in the summertime. We'd go and deliver the papers there, and we'd get invited into those units by some of the people, and we'd have milk and cookies and whatnot, and talk with them. Back then, and this was the early '70s, those units were a place where I think just about anybody would be comfortable to send their mother to live. They were nice units. They were well kept up. They were in good shape. The property was in good shape. And frankly, from my perspective, it's a disgrace what's happened there the past 20 years or so. It's unfathomable to me that a place that used to be nice looking, was well maintained, was an attractive place to live for people in their later years, was allowed to deteriorate like this. And I'm grateful that you stepped up to the plate to serve. I know with your audit experience, you can certainly get the finance straightened out over there. Mr. Santos is very committed to working with people. You've got the makings of a vastly improved authority to oversee those properties, and I'm appreciative of you and the other members for stepping up to do this. I'm also appreciative that Mrs. Bronk is essentially coming to us a second time in the same night to, once again, volunteer her expertise in the fields of housing and housing finance and property management to assist the citizens of Wareham in trying to get good, decent, affordable housing for people in which to reside. So I'm very proud to live in a town with somebody has that commitment to this, who's stepping up. So soon after leaving a very responsible position as the chairman of the Finance Committee. I would have thought you'd have taken a little more time off, but I'm glad you didn't. And so with that in mind, I would accept a motion authorizing a letter to the Governor's Council, which is the appointing authority for this one position.
The governor and the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Okay, is the appointment by the Governor's Council?
No, it's the governor. It's a gubernatorial appointment.
Oh, okay. I was confused
and-
on that. Thank you for setting me
and it's
straight.
Lisbeth Heyer, as associate director in DHCD, will do the vetting of the person.
Okay, if you could get that contact information to us so we know exactly to whom to address the letter, that would be helpful. I don't want to send it off to
Very good.
to a circular file somewhere
Yeah.
and have no action on it. This is a critical matter for the town.
Thank you.
Motion so made.
Second.
Anything else on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. So
May I-
it shall be done.
Thank you.
May I just ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
Of the 300 and some odd housing authorities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, how many of them have problems?
It's hard to say. In my background, I seem to only have known the ones that had problems, and I've known a few. And this is not. This is typical of the ones that I've seen where there were problems.
Okay, so Wareham
there are
is
some
not
wonderful-
alone in...
Oh no.
Okay.
There are some unbelievably well-run managed housing authorities. Plymouth, for instance, Taunton. If you went over to their properties, you would think you were staying at a hotel. Unbelievably clean, well-run, well-managed. The boards are involved, and just night and day from what I've seen in some of the other places across the state.
Thank you.
So there's a standard towards which your body can aim.
Right, exactly.
Right. Okay. Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I've met both the gentleman and Ms. Bronk, and I have worked closely, so I know you've got a dedicated person who's going to work hard for you as well, for everybody in there. And I don't think there's a better person they could have chosen that you don't already have involved. So
Thank you.
it's a good choice.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and spending your time with us tonight. We appreciate the update.
Thank you, Bob. No. Okay, back on schedule. Discussion on guidance to the town administrator for the next year. Ongoing agenda item. Mrs. Whiteside?
I don't think I have anything new to add to what I say to you regularly.
I'm going to repeat what we've talked about off and on. Basically, is we have a town administrator who is trying to do awful lot of things, and it's virtually impossible to keep up with everything, especially when it comes to having to do research, background, even following up sometimes. There's just so much stuff to be signed and done. He has obviously a very capable person in Sue Green in the office as well. What we've done is basically Mr. Sullivan has authorized me, as they've done before with the intern program, and we've applied to the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth for some interns, looking at basically doing research and background work, etc., working with the town administrator. We've asked for possibility of 2 interns. We've also included the School of Law, which they now have as a possibility as well, and hopefully this will help the situation along. I'm hoping by the next meeting we have on the 20th to have some other announcements that we're working on as well for programs for the town, economic development, etc.
Just one thing, my ears pricked up when you mentioned interns. As you know, at our workshop meeting last week, when we discussed the issue of, frankly, not knowing which roads in town are public ways versus private ways, or as you know, we can get further into discussion and talk about ancient ways and a number of different kinds of ways. But anyway, we need a way to figure out what our ways are. So with that in mind, I would suggest possibly speaking in particular with the UMass Law School over in Dartmouth to see if they might be interested in providing a couple of interns who could do this for credit. There's a lot of interesting researching to be done there. They can learn title searching skills, including back into colonial records, because we've got some really, really old roads in the town of Wareham. The town was established in 1739. Prior to that, it was part of Rochester Plantation was the original municipal body for the town of Wareham. So it goes way, way, way back. And there's, coming up on almost 400 years of history to research to find out where our public ways are. So I think that would be a very interesting project for a law school intern or three to tackle.
I apologize, I haven't given you copies of the applications because it usually goes to the town administrator. One of the particular applications is exactly what you just asked about.
You're ahead of me. Thanks.
As always.
I know that Mr. White had an issue to deal with, so we don't have anything on the Veterans Day Parade.
No, we don't.
I think what Mr. White and Mrs. Boyer were looking for was a continued commitment from the town to do and to allocate the resources to have the parade. That's essentially what the purpose was. I would assume that we will have a parade again this year, and that we will do everything we can to make it a nice event. But anyway, we'll schedule this again when we have Mr. White and Mrs. Boyer available. Next item, please.
We have the recycling program, Peter. Item B. This is a vote to accept, vote to accept the gift for the Wareham Recycling Program. We got a letter from the law office of Millman and Costa and Newton, and the Levine, L-E-V-E-N Family Fund has offered $10,000 to Wareham Recycling Program, subject to the following conditions. This money is to be used to run Wareham Recycling Program only. None of this money may be held in the general fund account. All money must be placed immediately into and always must be maintained in a separate account which is entitled for the benefit of the Wareham Recycling Program. All expenditures must be pre-approved by the Wareham Recycling Committee. And they have a side note. It's my understanding that approximately $5,000 should enable the recycling program to remain open for 1 calendar year. Thus, the sum of $10,000 should allow the program to stay open for 2 calendar years.
I've asked Mr. Sullivan actually to take a look at this correspondence. He would be the one ultimately responsible for the administration and allocation of these funds, so I'm just curious to see what he has to say.
I had spoken to the attorney about this when they had first brought it forward. The recycling committee had asked me to reach out, and it's an excellent source. Having people step up and being able to help out is truly amazing, and it was something that the estate of Hilda Levine would be interested in. It's really helping a community or nonprofit. Obviously, by the restrictions you see on here, it would go into the revolving account. They are asking, as part of this, that it really helps the recycling center run for 2 years. So I think the recycling committee needs to really make sure they consider what they're expending it on and make sure that the wishes are fulfilled. When people are giving us large sums of money, we need to make sure that we really honor that trust. So
Selectman Whiteside?
Yes, have we run this by town council?
It is an acceptable gift, and it's part, we ran it through the accounting office as to how to accept it. But this is something we can accept.
Okay, but it,
But I did not run it through Rich Bowen specifically. I didn't feel that it was necessary.
okay, it doesn't say what the money's going to be used for, except for the Wareham Recycling Program.
Right.
So it doesn't say salaries, it doesn't say maintenance, it doesn't say out-of-state travel, it doesn't say
Mm-hmm.
anything. So the the recycling committee will have to sign off on the vouchers to spend the funds?
Correct. It comes before the recycling committee, and then the warrants actually go to the selectmen. These expenditures don't pass through my desk. I don't believe I see these.
Anything else from the board?
I'd have a little concern about the lack of control on the, what's considered an expense. You know, I know we have an issue, I believe, with salary that wasn't appropriated for this budget year for them to continue, so I'm not sure how that's all going to be handled.
Well, let's look at the language under which the gift is made, and perhaps that could be incorporated into the motion to alleviate any concerns. It says the money is to be used to run the Wareham Recycling Program only. I would suggest that to say that it is to run the recycling program relates to operations. It does not relate to junkets or anything like that. Trips to Tahiti to discuss recycling with other people or things of that nature. It's when you talk about running, they're talking about the day-to-day operation, not ancillary things, not you know, handing out buttons with recycling things on it in the schools or anything like that. It's pretty clear to me that this is a gift for operations. Now, operations, of course, can include equipment. It could include salary. There are no such restrictions made in this gift. And again, this is not just some random gift from somebody who perhaps has a presumption of what they want to do with the money that they don't have the skills to skillfully articulate. This is coming from somebody represented by counsel, so presumably the language that is used is reflective to the purpose for which they seek to use it. So with that in mind, I think we probably can go ahead and accept it.
Okay. My question continues to be, if it is used for salary, which was not voted at a town meeting, do we also then append the roll-ups to it?
This would go directly into the revolving fund, so it wouldn't need to be appropriated. However, there is no salary. This is an interesting situation, whereas the recycling committee has essentially hired a contractor. We do not have a town employee that works the recycling center. They've hired a contractor to run the center, and that's been one of the things that we're looking into, because it's a volunteer with the committee and the other persons come in and volunteer their time, but they have a paid coordinator who was not hired through the town administrator's office. Used to be a town position, but it's not anymore.
When was the last time it was a town position, roughly?
I'd say about 4 years ago. It was before I'd come to the town. That's a very rough estimate.
So it's contract labor.
Correct. This person would have to be 1099'd.
Well, beyond that, with the notion that the expense and the allocation would be somewhat discretionary, of course, subject to our signing the warrants to actually physically pay the bill, they could conceivably pay for the contract services using this money. That's certainly in keeping with running the Wareham Recycling Program. Would you agree with that?
That would be, it would fulfill part of what they're asking in there. So it's not supplementing a town position,
Nor is it creating one?
nor is it creating one.
Well, with that in mind, we have a motion. Accept the gift.
I move to accept the gift of the estate of Hilda Levine in the amount of $10,000 to the Wareham Recycling Program, subject to the understanding that it is not being used to pay for a town employee, nor to create a town employee position.
Second.
And
For
of course,
discussion.
this is subject to the conditions elucidated in this correspondence as
Correct.
well.
Yes.
That's certainly implied by the acceptance of the gift.
Yes, sir.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 300. And I'd like to extend the board's thanks to the Levine Family Fund for this most generous gift in an area that the town has found challenging to continue to fund on its own. So we're very appreciative. Next item, please.
The Board of Selectmen's mission statement was discussed several weeks back, actually back in July 16th to be exact.
I don't want to just bring it forward again unless we have a full board.
I agree.
Please.
Fair enough.
I'll
Skip over that one and
reschedule it for-
reschedule.
for the 20th.
20th was jammed. Why don't we put it off till the 27th?
Okay, 27th it is. Condensing of town committees, we had waiting for town council to give us some answers. The initial answer we got is I think so, which doesn't make me too confident with I think so. So I would ask that we hold this off for another week if town council is going to be here, so we get a little better explanation. The idea, again, just in case anybody's forgotten, is to kind of take a group of committees that has similar functions or overlaps and put into one what I call super committees, such as natural resources, having 9 to 11 members and having little subcommittees off that handle the individual areas so that everybody has more expertise and there's more people to work with. But when it comes time to do votes and stuff, should not have a problem when you have 2 or 3 people from each group, which always show up all the time, to get a quorum of 5 or a quorum of 6. One of the first ones we had, which is a little testy for us, because one of the committees is appointed by the moderator at town meeting, and another committee has to do with a will that was given to the town for land, and some committees are formed by the Board of Selectmen, some were formed by town meeting, so we have to get some kind of rulings exactly how to do this, so it actually is legal to do, basically. And the idea with the natural resources, I think we had the Forest Committee, we had the Open Space Committee, we have Marine Resources, Fields and Grounds, and I believe there was one more there. And this is the first step. We have a few other groups like this we're trying to put together as well. Hopefully this will make it easier for having volunteers, as difficult as it is, and also make it more rewarding for the people volunteering to actually be able to have an end product and deliver things on a timely basis. Thank you. So with that said, I'd schedule that back out for the 27th as well.
Nope. So it shall be. Next item, please.
We had discussion about possibly looking at the cemetery commissioners, and we really did not get some rulings we were looking for yet to clarify, so I would ask that that be pushed off to either the 20th or the 27th.
27th.
Okay.
you. And the last one I have is the Facebook informational page. And I believe that's the same situation as we had with the mission statement. So,
Well, we talked about that, I want to say 3 weeks ago now.
16th of July. It's a month.
It was 3 meetings ago, okay. I think there was a consensus to do this. What specifically are we looking to go forward with? Drafting a page? Is there a specific proposal here? Again, we had a consensus on the kind of information that was going to be there. One of our members who wasn't here was very concerned that it not turn into a blog, which there's enough of those in town.
If I may?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that in order to have a page that is an effective and professional-looking page, we need to speak with someone who knows how to do them. I know that on some of the blogs people say there are lots of people who know how to make a Facebook page, but we actually have some employees of the town who know how to do that. And it may be that we also we're speaking with Mr. Pina about having some funds dedicated to the creation of the page. So I think we're still in the how are we going to get it done, because it has to hit the ground perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Well, with that in mind, then, Selectman Slavin?
I would think it would be best if we do a little more background work and get the pieces in place. I have an idea where we're going to reach out to as far as possibly the website, for internal. It won't be obviously our ITS manager, who has enough things to keep him busy, basically 48 hours a day when there's only 24 hours in the day. But I think we can kind of reach out, get some ideas, and then probably within 2 weeks or so, maybe 3, bring each one of the parties in we're going to talk to and have a actual discussion here at our meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Sounds like you two put some thought into this. Why don't trying to think. Let's try to come back to this in a couple of weeks. And I'm just concerned about piling things on for the 20th, because we've got I know we've got a couple of different CETA presentations and things to take care of. That's looking to take up a good chunk of time, and we've got a bunch of other things to do that day as well. So
I would actually put it off maybe 3 weeks, I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
You'll be gone.
Then we'll do it when you come back.
All right. Fair enough. We'll move this off to a future date. Let's see. Next item. I guess that's the last item, except for
48 hours. It's not really 48 hours. I'm breaking the rules. I just want to make sure that we do get on our agenda the policies that disappeared again. We need to get on make a decision how we're going to go and revise, revamp, replace, remove policies.
Well, the last time we took this up, I think, was... We didn't have a meeting last week. The week before, we took this up on July 30th, and at that time, I did ask the board to individually go through the policy book, select the policies that they wanted to discuss, and go through. And I think I also threatened to assign policies to people if I didn't get anything. And I haven't heard anything yet, so...
Actually,
forewarned is forearmed. You got until Friday to figure this out. Otherwise, I'm just going to... Maybe I'll borrow the town clerk's wheel and start spinning it and see who gets what. Selectman Whiteside?
yeah. I hear where you're coming from, sir. But I really think that making somebody look at something that they may not have the time to is not particularly an efficient way of getting done what we want to get done. Oh, don't look at me that way. Beady eyes, you get blong at me. No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that looking at how many are there. It's about like this.
It's not quite, it's not triple figures.
No, but it's close. It's very, very close. And in fact, if you look at the book, the beginning date is I think 88 or 82 or something. And there were policies well before that time. So you're asking us to do something that really is only going to be the top of ye olde icy-bergy, because people were making policies from the time that the town was.
Well, I understand that. The point of this exercise is over time. This isn't something that's going to happen over the course of a meeting or two. We're not going to come in here and bang this out over you know, in an hour. And, you know, speak to you know, a minute on each policy. That's not the plan. The plan is to look at each policy, determine whether it's a relevant policy still. If not, let's strike it from the books. If we don't need it, we don't need it. If it is a policy that impacts present-day decision-making, how we handle things, procedure, then let's see if it's appropriate for present-day conditions. And if not, let's work to make it a better policy. The other thing is by studying the policy manual, we can identify gaps where we probably should have a policy but don't have one.
But don't.
So this is a long-term exercise. This isn't something that's you know, going to happen over the course of a few weeks or even a few meetings.
I understand that, sir, but you still are not looking at all of the policies that have been adopted. This book started being created at some point in time. I'm not sure what the point. I don't have the book in front of me. What's the earliest one?
88.
88. And I'm sure that there were policies adopted before that.
There are things that we do that that pertain to custom, that when you get down to it are a policy. Now, are you going to find them in that book? Probably not. Again, I'm not suggesting that this is the comprehensive review of it. This isn't an exercise in how to be a selectman. There's a lot more that goes into it than that book. But that book is the one published document that you might say we are responsible, aside from the charter and the bylaws, to follow. And I think it's important that we at least try to get a handle on what's in that thing and go forward from there. So if people want more time, if the summertime isn't the season to do this, if you want to wait until the birds start to head south, I don't have any problem with that. But I would like, again, to at least get the notion of this on our consciousness so that we can start thinking about it.
Well, you have two members who are not here this evening, and in order to have them play on the same playing field, they need to be here and hear you say what you're saying. It wouldn't be appropriate, I don't think, to have it on the agenda next week to start discussing it and say, you know, the clock is ticking. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult,
No.
Mr. Titlebaum. I'm just trying to be
Practical.
practical.
No, I get it. It's just this is something that we've been I don't know. We keep kicking it down the road, and eventually I just want to kick it into a wall and deal with it. So, all right, take that off for now. Come back to it.
If you put it on like second week of September or something, and
If you can schedule it.
and schedule it, and why don't we schedule a workshop?
I suppose we could do a workshop. All right, anything else on the agenda?
Nothing 48 hours for me, except that.
Yes, come on up to the microphone, Bob, so it picks up. They're not... Thanks.
In the fire department, on behalf of the board and the residents of the public housing property, for their quick responses over the past months that I've been on there. And the other thing I thought of is, once we get a handle on our finances and stabilize the place, we'd be looking to make a payment in lieu of taxes to the town and work out something voluntarily, as we think we should, as a good partner and a citizen of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, I think you're up.
Thank you very much. The first thing I'd like to bring forward is last Thursday we had a department head meeting introducing some of the new department heads. Mr. Arafredi of the inspectional department, some of the people that are in an interim or acting basis as well. We then went over and are starting the FY15 budgets now, including asking for the revenues from each department. So essentially we're basing everything off of the FY13 numbers. It's the full picture that we had for revenues. And in looking at FY15, and we have the 5-year projection that'll be presented to the board. Essentially, our expenses go up by $2 million, and our revenues increase by 1.2 million. Only about 680,000 of them out of the Prop 2.5. So it's, you know, we're in for another long haul. But I've asked the departments to actually tell us what they need, not what they want, what they actually need to run their departments, so that, you know, the public and the Board of Selectmen Finance Committee understand what they're going up against on a daily basis with the budgets that they have. The next item is that some people have asked me about the parking kiosk, the revenues, and just give a brief explanation. The parking kiosk revenues go to a receipts reserved for appropriation account. In other words, they do not flow to the general fund. They go to the parking fund where they are segregated, and that money can only be spent by appropriation. So that'd be by town meeting. So if some people are concerned that all this revenue is going into a place and we're just spending it on I don't know, lottery tickets or something, we can't. It has to be appropriated out of the fund. Now the parking tickets, those do not go to the police department. They go to the general fund, and they're in a category of fines and fees. So they are not placed in the parking receipts reserved for appropriation account. We know that this year we're going to have a much higher increase in the parking tickets. Alone, I believe the Harbor Masters Department is accounting for over 200 tickets over the last 4 weeks. 200 tickets equal $6,000. So they're $30 per ticket. I would say that the police department has done at least that much. They are patrolling not only the parking areas, but where the kiosks are, but also the beaches for people that don't have the proper stickers. We've had some interesting examples of people putting signs on there saying we had more friends visiting, so we're just going to use this car instead because it's bigger, but we have a sticker on the other vehicle. It doesn't work that way. So before you get yourself a ticket, and if it's during a weekday, please call and ask. But speaking about the parking kiosks, over the last week, from August 5th through August 11th, we've earned $8,414.50. On Saturday, the amount was $2,333.25. Sunday, $1,952.25. Since the inception of the parking kiosks, or the parking kiosks working, we have cleared just over $30,000. And that's since, I believe, July 19th. So.
Do you have comparative figures for last year, or are you still looking to get through the month of August before you do the direct comparison?
I'd like to go through the whole month of August on that to give it more of a true comparison. But some of the interesting parts of this is we've had 4,397 transactions with the kiosks. So that's, you know, almost 4,400 people. Maybe they've come back and used it, but those are unique transactions. Out of that, 4,017 were with credit cards or debit cards. So we're looking at just about 91% using the credit and debit. And we've already spoken about the resignation of the town planner. So we will be looking to post that as soon as possible. And I believe that is all the information that I currently have.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
I did meet this week with the new superintendent at her invitation, and we did discuss the fact that we being Mr. Sullivan and herself, can look at some economies of scale by looking to perhaps share personnel in the following fields: IT, human resources, purchasing. Help me out. What was the other? What was another one? There was another one, and she is very receptive to trying to get the most squeak out of the dollar, and if that means that we have payroll, that there must be way. Again, I go back. My comment to her was the same that I've made to most everybody. My tax bill says the town of Wareham. It does not say, school department, blah, blah, blah. So I think that Ms. Shaverhood has the same fiscal goals that I might be accused of having. So I would urge you to speak with her as soon as you can to see what kind of putting together of some of these positions we can do and effect some savings.
Thank you.
Just thank you for bringing that forward. That's, whenever there's a change in personnel at that significant a level, it represents an opportunity to find out, look at, again, at commonalities of purpose, of resources, of allocation, and to try to work some things out. Again, as you say, the tax bills we all pay say Town of Wareham. They don't say, you don't get a separate one for the school department. You don't get a separate one for municipal maintenance. We're all in this together, and I'm assuming that Ms. Shaverhood is of a mind that the more money she can save on administrative expense, then the more money she can devote to classroom teaching, which is obviously the goal here, is to provide the best education possible and also the best use of the taxpayers' money, which is our sworn responsibility to try to seek. So thank you for that outreach. Thank you for that report. And Mr. Sullivan, anything you need from the board in terms of assistance in that regard, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything else? Do we have any other liaison reports or anything else going on? Or
Finance Committee meets tomorrow at 6:30. We've already heard a little bit about the Planning Board, which met on Monday to deal with the three different issues of the marijuana clinic, the sign bylaw, and the TDR. We're still waiting for the permit to be pulled over on the Greer Lumberyard, which I think is 57 to 59 Main Street, where the building's kind of falling in on the street there. The paperwork has basically been done. We're waiting for the actual owner of the property to pull the paperwork and to go ahead and remove that building. Hopefully that'll be the first step to having that whole area developed, and that's what they call Greer Lumberyard. That's all I have.
I think the Finance Committee are meeting in here tomorrow night.
Yes, they are. They're moving from, because of the changes in the building here, they are going to be meeting here. Probably one of the reasons why some of the chairs, as people may have noticed, are a little different than usual. I think myself and Mrs. Whiteside have the low back chairs. Everybody else used to have high back. There's a hidden message there.
I'm ignoring it. Anything else? We all set?
We're good.
How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion so made.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300. Thank you very much.
Good
Have a
night,
nice
Wareham.
evening.